Welcome back. We are at scene 3 of Act 3 with a very large cast on the stage. It's everyone all in together. But the first thing that's going to happen is something that you won't hear much of in language. It's really a visual thing. And if it's done to mimic in some respect Prometheus Bound, where an awful lot of time is put into actually putting Prometheus into his chaining up, you can undo that on the stage. So we're going to get Hercules freeing Prometheus with the arrival of the spirit of the hour that allows Hercules to do that. So, to begin talking about this scene with Hercules and Prometheus, Mary, Jacob, take it away. Talk to us about what's happening here in scene 3.
So Prometheus has been unbound and he descends, and then the scene opens with Hercules glorifying this descendants and Prometheus's freedom. And then he says that Prometheus compares strength to wisdom, strength to courage, and to love. And then there's this line, thee who art the form they animate, minister like a slave. And we discussed that a little bit, and I think there's 2 meanings to that. So there's both the literal interpretation where Hercules is physically ministering to Prometheus by unbinding him, and then you have this figurative interpretation where Prometheus is ministering like a slave in the way that he's comparing strength to these other expressions. And then it goes into this speech that Prometheus gives, basically.
Now, can I hold you up there just
sure,
for a
absolutely.
moment?
I don't know.
Because I think that there's a lot to be said about this. This little piece of language is very rich, especially as we've just come out of a discussion of slavery and the sea. Okay, and Mary, can you talk a little bit more about the language of slavery here in these first few lines and some of the strange aspects of it?
Well, we were puzzled as we were discussing it because minister like a slave has 2 words in it. Minister, which we've seen a lot of religious words or words having to do with clergy, organized religion, having negative overtones throughout the play. And then like a slave, again, another word that has a lot of negative overtones. But you reminded us that there's another way that you can minister and you can be a slave to love, and that and minister can also mean love. And so that this could be a way of describing love.
So minister is an incredibly rich word. It can be a political office.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the minister of Jupiter,
Mm-hmm.
or of George W. Bush. But you can also minister like a nurse.
That's very true.
You can minister like a lover. You can minister love out. Now, we've just been looking at the chains of slavery being broken. But that doesn't mean that the language of freedom and slavery goes away. We can choose to act like a slave through bonds of love instead of bonds of bondage. We can choose our own meaning. I can slave away for hours so that you will have the most wonderful dinner because I love to have my friends around me, and community is worth the effort. I can slave away at a text to unravel it and open it up because the meanings that are hidden inside and waiting are so beautiful to share and can change the world. But I choose. I'm free to choose what I'm a slave to. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that
definitely.
makes sense. I do have to say that although there's a lot packed into the 5 lines, I think it says something about Shelley's mindset that he has chosen to give Hercules only 5 lines. And this is Hercules. This is someone who, you know, there are huge epics written about him, and he's just on and off in just a few moments. So there's a different kind of hero, and there's a different kind of quest going on in this. And I think that Shelley tips his hand a bit here by giving him such a tiny part.
Well, I think that's a great comment. Yes, I mean, we could have written this play with Hercules as the hero, or one of the heroes. But Hercules is one of the people playing his little part. His little part may be to free Prometheus, but it's the spirit of the hour, which is brought on by Demogorgon, which is brought on by Asia, which is brought on by Prometheus. It's an almost infinite regress of democratic change, which enables the moment for Hercules. And that is new in literature.
That's very true.
So walk us, please, Jacob and Mary, through the first part of Prometheus' speech. What kind of speech is it, and what's he giving us with this language?
Adoration and thankfulness, gratitude. He's saying thank you to Asia and the sisters for making the past bearable for him, and praising them.
And he has plans for...
Right, he has plans for this cave of this kind of utopian cave where they can remain unchanged in their immortality while the rest of the world changes around them. And there are a couple references to sound too. You have an awakening sound, and then there is heard the ever-moving air whispering from tree to tree, birds and bees, mossy seats. So there's all these references to natural beauty and all the things that they can witness from this cave.
So let's break down a couple of them.
Yeah, sure.
We don't have to do all of them, but what does it mean that the air is ever moving?
Time is going to keep going. The world is going to keep turning, but they're inside this cave. So that the air is ever moving is, to me, it's change. Change is going to be continuous.
Some caves may be without air, right?
Right.
So, but what might it mean politically? What might it mean spiritually, as opposed to what we started in this poem?
Oh, it was incredibly static at the beginning.
So change, constant change.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I hate to belabor the obvious, but we're at a cave, and we have mention of birds and
bees.
So what's all that about then?
That maybe they will procreate.
Yeah, the cave is a space of domesticity, of obviously here of love, of possibility. We also know that the cave can be, could be in Plato's sense, a space of ignorance, of unknowing, right? The Plato's cave.
Well, it says a simple dwelling, so that could be, simple can either mean, dumb and unintelligent, or it can mean just not complicated in terms of arrangement and organization,
I mean, for a ruler who typically, when you take over the world, where do you live?
When I do?
Yes, when you've last taken over the world, where did you live?
The last time I took over the world, I lived in Russia.
Palace, the Kremlin.
Oh, yeah.
And this is
really
the opposite of the Kremlin,
palace,
right?
yeah.
This is a simple cave, which says something about the politics. Right.
Yeah. It's natural. It's
right.
overgrown,
right.
so they can't really see out too clearly. It's lush. It's full of all that kind of.
Well, and mentioning the birds and the bees, you then have mossy seats and rough walls clothed with long, soft grass.
How lovely! Wouldn't you
and
like
comfortable?
To have that?
Yes, very
soft.
comfortable.
And it has human babes in their innocence.
Yeah,
right.
human babes in their innocence, and that's a great line because
they're brief innocence.
They're brief innocence.
So we're going to be like them, right? I mean, is that right? We're going to.
Yeah,
be
we're
like
going to
them?
make things, make strange combinations, just like how little children play with things and put strange
Without
combinations.
reservation.
Yeah.
So when we think about the hours before being ruled by tyranny, by wage slavery, by suffering, there was no time to do that, was there?
No, this is play.
How beautiful. So that's important. Play matters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have they mention the skill of the enamored wind, weaving harmonies divine yet ever new. So the wind is a musician. They're sitting in this cave witnessing a never-ending concert, the world's concert. The natural vibrations of the air flowing through the trees and
Now if we can just very quickly flip back to scene 2 and let's look at this line where it tells us sorry, where is it now? By the light of wave-reflected flowers and floating odors and music soft and mild, free, gentle voices, that sweetest music such as spirits love, and that is coming from, who's playing the music? I mean, maybe we all are, but who's playing the music here?
the world. I mean,
It's that chap with the instrument.
oh, Lucifer
It's Lucifer.
with the lute,
Oh, with the lute.
With
yeah.
the lute, right?
the young spirit.
The young spirit. Okay. Sorry to draw you away. I just wanted to make the connection that each
that's
act
good, yeah.
informs the next one.
The one last thing to say is, unless you had something else
No,
to say, there's two big events that happen, not just Prometheus being taken down and unbound here, but he's reunited with Asia, right? This is the first time, so it's Asia, thou light of light. So those are two like very momentous occasions happening, and that seems to be what starts his speech here, was seeing her, and then he.
Well, what would they do when they meet on the stage, Mary?
I think they would just stare at each other at first, stare into each other's eyes at first. That's my thought. But I guess they would probably embrace.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they would embrace.
Yeah.
Okay. So now here we get the lutes again. Just to tie this back, like lutes touched by the skill of the enamored wind, weave harmonies divine, yet ever new. And here's a line I think is very important. From difference sweet, where discord can never be. What does that tell us about the world that Shelley is envisioning and hoping for us?
It's utopian.
And what does it mean about difference? Does difference go away?
No, it's a good thing.
Yeah, difference is sweet. Just like you can't have harmony unless you have different tones. You have to have the different sounds. Although in
I think it's also saying that change is good.
And change is good.
Difference is sweet, change is good. They kind of mean the same thing.
Thank you so much, Jacob and Mary. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that's a very good reading. Michael, what happens next?
Well, all this seems to be taking place in the air. There's aerial Enna. Enna is a meadow in Sicily, although this meadow is in the air. It's not on the ground. So it just seems...
It's a kind of aerial version of Enna.
And
where's Himera?
And Himera is a city in Sicily, presumably near this meadow, where a couple of rivers come together. And thanks to the notes in my book.
Now, what does that sound like to you going back? I'm going to lean on John for a second with his biblical knowledge. What does that sound like with two rivers coming together, three rivers coming together? I'll do it.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. A little bit like the The garden.
of the Garden of Eden.
Oh, yeah, the three rivers in the
Oh,
Garden
yeah.
of Eden, right?
So here
Three
we.
rivers?
I think there are.
I think there are 3 rivers as well, but here we get a
Says
couple
2.
of rivers coming
Oh.
together, right? Yeah, it's not exact, but I think I felt something Edenic about the way it comes together. Now we get this very interesting thing, lovely apparitions, which makes me think of sitting in the cinema and the lovely apparitions that great films can bring to us. Dim at first, then radiant, as the mind arising bright from the embrace of beauty. Now this is quite complicated, but it's beautiful. It's really about how art and the mind meet together, I think. At least that's one reading of it. It's the way when you first come to a text, you can't quite see into it. You hear the words, you understand a little of it, but as you live with the language, as you play with it, it begins to open up to you, it becomes brighter, and suddenly you can see into the language. And this is a process which is mirrored in a way in film. Now, of course, Shelley couldn't have known that, right? Except we get this amazing moment when he says, he talks about the gathered rays, which are reality, shall visit us, the progeny immortal of painting, sculpture, and rapt poesy, arts though unimagined, yet to be. And if we want to put all of this stuff together, sculpture, painting, poetry, dance, everything, we kind of get cinema.
Yeah.
But what Shelley was probably thinking about were the amazing plays that he was going to see, these really quite remarkable things he was watching in Italy. He was a man who'd never liked the theatre before, but he really liked the new kinds of theatre that were becoming available, sort of using opera, using music, using dance, using beautiful painted sets, and creating a multimedia experience like nothing that had ever happened before. And why is that important here? Well, how about making a play called Prometheus Unbound, which if you were ever going to stage it, I'm not saying he's saying he definitely wanted to, but he may have wanted to, you would have to bring the arts that were partly unimagined yet to bear on it, to make it open up. So we have this lovely kind of metaphor, or meta something, for the experience of being the receptor of art and then making art live within you, and making the art that lives within you change you, and allowing that change to change the world around you. Man becomes the mediators of that best worship, love. And I think here we see the power of the divine is love here. If there's a divinity for Shelley, it is love.